What's one relationship in your life, personal or professional, that feels right now like it could use a reset? If one came to mind, I want you to know you are not alone. Because even the most intentional leaders struggle with disconnection, misunderstandings, and unmet expectations. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. The strength of your leadership is only as strong as the relationships you choose to nurture. All right, here we are, Transformation Station. Let's get into it. Hello, I want to welcome you to Transformation Station. Now, we have a brand new series called Best in Class, where leadership legacy meets excellence. It's more than a goal, it truly is a mindset. And I'm your host, Adrienne Benton. And today we're diving into something every leader, team member, and human being needs to get better at. That's right, relationships. And whether you're leading a team, building a partnership, or raising a family, your ability to build authentic, healthy connections will determine the quality of your influence and the legacy that you leave. So how do we build better? Listen, not just in our best days, but really in the tension, in the stress, and in the in between. So today, I am absolutely thrilled that we have a very special guest with us. He's an expert. Let me tell you a little bit about him. His name is John Knowlton. John and his wife, Julie, have realized an abundant life, and they believe that all of our outcomes are rooted in our thinking. John's career has been bivocational, fully engaged in building businesses and serving part-time as a pastor and teacher. As a jail chaplain, he saw people whose thinking led them way down the wrong path. And as an entrepreneur, he discovered the power of thinking about others first and seeking to create great value. John partnered to build a wealth management business that managed more than 1 billion of client assets and retired at age 51. After 1 year COVID sabbatical, he served CEOs and business owners as a C12 chair, facilitating day-long business retreats. John's focus is helping people think better so they can fulfill the purpose for which they were made. Listen, he's in the right place today. His book, Thinking for Success, 52 stories that upgrade your thinking to boost productivity, problem solving, and relationships, will be released by Morgan James in January 2026. And John and his wife, Julie, have realized an abundant life. So let's welcome John Knowlton to Best in Class series. Welcome, John. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Adrienne, it's great to be here, and I'm just going to do my best to keep up with your energy, okay?
Absolutely. It's going to be fantastic. So John, listen, we're going to just jump right in.
Yeah.
As a leader, right, we've both been in leadership for a couple of decades now. I have found that leaders in general often struggle with building relationships at home and at work. I have found over the years for myself, sometimes, John, it's time constraints. Sometimes I have fallen into the trap of prioritizing work over my personal life. Have mercy. And sometimes it is simply the impact of work-related stress where I at times would find myself unable to connect with my family because I'm going home and I'm still holding on to the stress. Those of you who are listening right now, don't say ouch. Just keep on listening, because I know that you can relate to it as well. And actually, you know what? I'm going to just jump right in here and ask you a question, John. Okay, so leaders, we don't turn off our leadership at 5 p.m. at the end of the workday, nor do we have the opportunity to turn off our relationships. I want to start off by asking you, what have you learned about leading well at home that's also made you a better leader at work?
Well, I'll tell you, I've done it wrong a lot, and so maybe I'm in the right place here with people who've seen opportunities for improvement. Let's just say this in terms of how do we relate at work and at home. And the reality is, any goal we can accomplish by ourselves is too small, and so
Mhm.
people are important. And not in a utilitarian function, but rather let's get everybody to a higher level or to higher levels of success or to achieving what they want to do. And so relationships are so critical. Let me just give you a hack, if you will, or a tool that my wife and I discovered, which is that when I would come home from work, I was still in work mode. I was in boss mode. But at home, my kids and my wife, they don't need a boss. They need a dad and they need a husband. And so we discovered the power of ritual to help make the transition from work to home. And it wasn't for them, it was for me.
Mhm.
Taking myself out of driver mode where I'm trying to get stuff done to dad and husband mode where I'm trying to be.
Mm.
And so, I mean, ritual sounds real fancy. Here's my ritual: change my clothes,
Mhm.
take a shower,
Mhm.
literally wash off work, put
Mhm.
on my dad clothes instead of my boss clothes. You know,
Mhm.
soft clothes, old t-shirt, whatever home clothes look like. And when I would come home, just give my wife a kiss and go upstairs and into the bedroom and change and shower. 5, 10 minutes later, whew, I'm here now. Okay,
Mhm.
what's most important? Do I need to give a kid a bath? Do I need to give a kid a spanking? I mean, in Michigan, it's open palm. Anyways, in do I need to cook the vegetables? You know, what's up? But I was not ready to do that when I was still thinking about customers, invoices, running employees, you know, all the stuff of driving business. And so the power of ritual, just a simple tool that everybody understands. Dad will be right back, and he'll be a whole lot better if we give him 5 minutes.
Whew, that is powerful right there. Consider, those of you who are listening or watching right now on Facebook or in YouTube, the power of ritual. What rituals can you create that will lay the foundation for you to be able to lead better and live well with your relationships at work and as home? What I love, John, what you just shared is that you gave us something that was practical.
Mm.
Walking in the door, doing a check-in, and I want to invite all of those who are listening every single day. Can you? I know you can. Why don't you go ahead and commit to doing a 10-minute check-in with your partner or with your children when you go home, as opposed to throwing the bag down, ripping off the clothes, sitting down in front of the TV, going to grab that cold bag. Like, just stop, walk in, check on your family. Walk in. When was the last time you walked in and gave your spouse a kiss? When was the last time you walked in and just patted your child on the head or gave them a hug and said, "I'm so glad to see you"? It's these small rituals, as John mentioned, that helps us to sew in and have deeper and stronger commitments. And right now, here in our audience for at the transformation community, we like to do reflection prompts. And so here's one prompt for our audience, which is: where do I lead with influence but lack intention? And what can I shift this week to change that? One more time, for those of you who are listening, especially, here's your reflection prompt: where do I lead with influence but lack intention? And what can I shift to change this week to change that? Because John talked to us about the power of rituals, and this is very important. So John, what communication habits or mindsets do you believe are essential for building trust and connection, both with our teams and with our families?
Well, I think that there's a real value in something that my friend Roger Whitney calls little conversations. And so, what happens when we don't have little conversations is feelings and misunderstandings and emotions start to build up. And then we have to have the big, scary conversation that could be at work, you know, about employee performance or how a partner is managing things or making decisions. And it happens at home too. And so little conversations is the is the principle have regular little conversations that aren't hard, that you can have on a regular basis. And in a staff meeting, you can schedule it. If you're having a regular staff meeting, make sure that the stuff that's on people's minds is actually has permission. They have permission to bring them up, and we have a process or methodology to solve them. And in a marriage or in a domestic situation with your family, make sure that there's regular periods of time without phones, without TV, without internet, where you can have little conversations, because the big scary conversations, those cause big damage when we don't do them right. And so the little conversations, they just pop the little balloons before they get big.
I love that. Do you have an example of maybe a time where you used that and was able to see it actually work?
Gosh, my wife and I, when we were first married 25 years ago, heard someone talk about the 4 questions, and we have faithfully used the 4 questions. And so I'll teach it to you. And it's actually only 2 questions. You just each ask them. And so it starts like this: how was your day? So this assumes that we're having a meal together. And even if you're not eating, I guess it could happen any other time. But if you have a ritual, again, of a meal together where everyone in the family is there, then you can do it, do the 4 questions right at that meal. By the way, sometimes people come home from work and they'll say, "What's for dinner?" But I actually think the more important question is, what's dinner for? And what dinner is for is relationship building and value transmission. So we're building and maintaining relationships with the people at the table, and then we're transmitting our values through the stories we tell, through the ways that we manage conflict and issues, money, schedule, all that stuff. We're transmitting values to the next generation. So the 4 questions.
Yes.
You're welcome to come back to that if you like, but it's, how was your day? Okay, so what are we learning here? This sounds like it may be small talk, throwaway. This is critical. You're getting at least 2 levels of information. The first one is the facts of what happened. What did your spouse or your partner go throughout the day? But you're, more importantly, getting in emotional information. How are they feeling? How are they doing? How did the facts affect your partner? And so then that gives you information about the second question, which is, what do you need tonight? Or what do you need from me? And so I'm a full-blooded man, and my wife, if I ask, how was your day? And she had a good day, and she seems emotionally, pretty good space. Well, when she comes to ask me, what do I need? I might make a big ask, hey, how about some special time tonight? But if she'd had a tough day, a hard day, I'm going to say, I don't need anything. I'll do whatever you need, honey. And so to put the other person's needs first is the point of these questions. We're not simply making small talk. This is critical relationship building. And when someone expresses something about their day and we respond appropriately, we're building trust, we're pouring into them, we're making that relationship strong and resilient against future attacks or mistrust or anything that might come against it. How was your day? What do you need from me? And following through on the answer, what do they need from you, is so key. That makes a marriage that will just be solid and a force of nature.
Wow. Like, as you were talking, I was thinking about how Maslow says everybody has a hierarchy of needs. We all have a need for a sense of belonging and a sense of connection. Relationships, many of us struggle with relationships because we're not doing the basics, right? It's like you have a car, your car needs an oil change. It needs to have that oil in order for it to keep running. And when we look at our relationships, it's so important that a basic question like, what do you need from me? It's basic, but I know how I feel when someone takes the time to ask me, what do you need from me? I feel like, wait a minute, somebody's actually asking me a question about what's really going on with me. And as you build your relationship, you, your spouse, your partner, your team members at work, there's trust that begins to build. That trust says you can be authentic with me.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
be vulnerable with me. Those of you who are listening right now, I want you to think about your home relationships. And I want you to think about your work relationships. And I want to invite you right now to think about where the tension lies in both.
Mm.
For most of us, that tension is going to lie in both places. It's going to be the same, right? And what you just shared with us, you started off talking about ritual, right? Having that ritual that lays the foundation. Now you're guiding us through questions that we can ask our companions, our children, our team members, right? To make relationships stronger. You know, it's like if you know the why, then you can conquer the how.
Mm.
Why? Why do you have these relationships? Right. And as a leader, our goal is to walk beside, is to journey beside, it's to help empower, to uplift, to build. I love the example that you gave, right? Based on your wife's response, either, hey, okay, I know I can go to the right or I can go to the left. And being flexible because you asked, you received the answer, you respect it and value it, and then you remain flexible to go in the direction of what is needed. I absolutely love this.
You know, Adrian, when we don't feel empowered or when we feel weak, vulnerable, challenged, or whatever like that, we start to see people not as people, and we see ourselves, well, we see people as objects. We see
Mhm.
ourselves as a person amongst objects. And we
Mm,
see those people as either tools to get what we want or
mm,
as obstacles in the way of what we want.
mm,
In fact, I discovered this at a coffee shop.
mhm,
There's a lot of a lot of lessons in a coffee shop, maybe, but I was standing in line at a coffee shop, and I realized I always get black coffee because it's fast, and I'm here for caffeination in a moment. You know, I'm not. So there was people in front of me who did not share that philosophy. They
mm,
had the idea of, I'm going to discuss every item on the menu and how it's made. And I'm not sure what I want. And maybe it's a little more complicated and we need to take some time. And I had a revelation. I see in these people as obstacles in my way. And these baristas should be working faster and they're
Mercy.
tools to get what I want. And I said, oh my God, I have just turned these human beings into objects.
I'm chuckling, but this is serious because we find that it happens all the time. What
Think
were you
about
going
at work. Your teammates or your people that work for you,
to say?
are they, gosh, if you're in an interdepartmental meeting, is that other department, are they getting in your way of getting what you want? Or the people that work for you, are the tools not sharp enough? Are they, we even talk about it like this, we need more tools in the toolkit. And man, that's not the way you build relationships, by treating people like tools and
No,
obstacles.
not at
And
all.
so I realized, wow, I need to get my brain straight here, man. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to use people. I'm here to bless people. And so um, recognizing what we're thinking about and how we're thinking about people is really key to making sure we can make better choices and honor that person. And the reality is, you're going to get much more productivity out of people when you treat them as human beings rather than as tools and obstacles.
Absolutely. As you were talking about, communication and habits, I was thinking about, there's a phrase that says, seek to understand before you seek to be understood.
Sure.
If we put some of these type of practice, these type of mantras into practice, we bring that human factor that you're talking about, right? I know many times over the years I've seen in workspaces in particular, as you talked about treating people like objects, when we lose that human factor, that's where many times the war begins,
Yeah.
right? Because people feel like they're not valued, then they start avoiding, they don't contribute. They're trying to think about how can they quickly get this project finished, or they don't do it with the proper work ethic. Let's just hurry up and get it done. Or you start to see tension in the way people talk to one another, because the basic fabric of communication and honoring someone else, even if they're different than you, being able to honor who they are, find value, and come together as a team. And those of you who are listening right now, we want to take this moment to invite you for some reflection.
Mm.
You know, John talked about not objectifying people, not treating them like objects. Leader, how can you interact with your team where you don't see them as an obstacle or an object, but you see them as a human being for you to have a connection with your family? How can you, like John talked about, when you get home and you open that door, you leave work outside. Now, we understand we're human beings, you're still going to think about it, but you don't come in carrying the weight of work and then causing your family to have to carry it with you. I want to invite you to think about that. So, John, many high capacity leaders often struggle with being fully present with the people who matter the most. What are some practices that have helped you to stay grounded and connected even during busy seasons? And I'm very curious about this answer because we live in a very pressure filled world, and it seems like there's never a time where it's not busy. It's busy, 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 busy. But what best practices can you share with us about staying fully present with the people that matter?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that your question prompted is this idea that being busy is our culture, American culture, anyways. It's our primary virtue, and it's our chief complaint. In other words, if we ask somebody, "Hey, how's things at work?" "Oh man, we're busy," as if it's a badge of honor. And then when we're looking at the calendar and trying to find a date night with our spouse, or time for a half a day retreat so I can get my head clear, then we're complaining about how busy we are. So we deal with busyness in two different ways. We honor it. It's almost our productivity, our deity, and then we complain about it and without end. But you called me an expert, and I guess I'm an expert because I've made mistakes so many times. But I'll share two very practical things that you can do to be present. And so when we say be present, I think we're talking about our brain, our the invisible part of ourself, right? Someone can be sitting in the chair next to you, but not really present because their thinking is somewhere else. So number one, these phones that we buy, they are scientifically designed distraction machines. They are the smartest people in the world work on making those more addictive every day. And so for some of us, we have to leave it in another room, turn it off, leave it in the car, put a screen time feature on it so that you can't even use it between certain hours, whatever the case. So we need to manage our relationship with the technology. So that's right now the number one reason people aren't present, is because their brains are sucked into their phones instead of engaged with the people around them. The second hack is that sometimes, even if we're not looking at the phone, we're still dealing with an issue at work that happened today, or we're anticipating or concerned about tomorrow. And so if we're just trying to keep that work that problem, then it's going to suck up our energy. And so I use these little pieces of paper like this and write it down. That way I can say, okay, I wrote this problem down. Susie's performance. Okay. So I know that I'm going to think about Susie's performance, and I don't have to spend any part of my brain energy to remember to think about solving Susie's performance issue. And it's just a simple tool to get it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper, and it frees up some bandwidth. I know it almost sounds so trivial. Why even mention to write down what you need to remember? But the act of doing it helps you be present with the people that you're around and that you love, because you know, I don't have to spend energy trying to remember that thing, and I'm going to come back to it later. That's a tool I use whenever I try to do silent prayer or meditation or hear from God. I mean, just the to-do list always floods through my brain. And the act of writing all those things down and saying, you're important and I'll come back to you later, gives my brain the ability to ultimately release those things so that I can be open to new ideas and new information. So this comes from decades of doing it badly, or ignoring the people I was with, or being reminded again and again by my wife that I'm not really here. And those are the two techniques. Put the technology away and write it down once so you don't think about it 30 times.
This is powerful. This is really powerful because it causes you to step outside of yourself and truly engage. I find that we miss so much when we don't engage, when we don't connect. We miss so much of what's happening all around us and the goodness that's out there, right? I was thinking while you were talking, in addition to what you shared, I was thinking about the fact that when we are talking to people, it's really important that we are present with intentional eye contact.
Mm.
I know what it's like to talk to someone and I'm talking to them and they're all over the place. Like, their eyes, they're not really focusing. And it's like, you're talking, but you really get this impression that they're missing the message.
Yeah.
And I want to invite leaders, whether you're at work or whether you're home, when we talk about building stronger relationship, take time when people are talking to you to be present. Look them in the eye. Sometimes you can say something as simple as, wow, that's important. Or I hear you, I'm listening. That will cause a connection to happen. And that person will talk to you with even more authenticity because they believe that you're present with them in the moment.
Mm.
I want to also invite you, and I for myself, what helps me is beginning my day with stillness. Beginning my day with stillness. I'm a firm believer in the attitude of gratitude. And I know that I have worked over the years in many pressure-filled environments. And if I start my day off instantly going over my to-do list, as soon as I open my eyes, it's not going to be a good day because my tolerance level is going to be low. I'm going to start off the day feeling stressed out and tense. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is open my eyes and I just experience a moment of gratitude like, wow, thank you. I was able to wake up and see one more day. Right. And before I start rehearsing the difficulties, I want to begin my day rehearsing, going over, sitting at the forefront of my mind, what's already working.
Mm.
I got up, I got legs and arms, I can walk, I have a job, all of those things. And so I want to invite everybody, those of you who are listening, even 5 minutes of quiet time before you check the emails, before you start jumping into logistics, right, will help to shift us from being reactive to be responsive, whether you're at home or whether you're at work. Practice starting off your day with gratitude. For some, if you have a faith preference, you can start it off with a short prayer or meditation, right? But giving yourself a quiet space so that you can collect yourself, mind, body, soul, and spirit before you go out and engage so that you truly can engage in an authentic manner. John, somebody told me a quote years ago that said, when I meet you, you're already in a relationship with you. If you don't understand the relationship that you have with you, then the relationship you have with everybody else won't make sense.
Mm.
Sometimes, whether it's a spouse and you have multiple roles in the marriage, right? Husband, wife, parent, daughter, son, like all these roles, or whether you're at work and you have multiple roles at work, if you lose who you are in the trueness and fullness of who you are, then man, the relationships that you try to build with others, it's not going to be permanent. It's going to be a lot of temporariness related to it. Why? Because everybody's interacting with you through your mask. So Those of you who are listening, what you've heard John and I talk about in this conversation, a lot of it also boils down to authenticity with yourself so that you can be authentic and build relationships with everyone else. So, I have one final question that I would like to ask you. We're going to turn the corner here and talk about application in some ways. John, what's one shift that a leader can literally make this week to deepen their relationships at work or at home that does not require a huge time investment?
Well, Adrian, I want to continue on your thought about our relationship with ourself and sort of our inner world, starting the day right, etc. But as far as we know, we are unique among all the creatures in the world in being able to think about what we think about.
Mm,
And so we can do this sort of meta. We can observe ourselves
mm,
and paying attention to what's on our mind. And I just really encourage people to get into a practice of paying attention to what am I thinking about, and then change your default setting.
mm,
So what I mean by that is when we can be cognizant of what we're thinking about, aware of it, we can notice that there are some things that are often in our minds about our limitations or about our constraints or about how other people are dealing with us, or we just often have these default settings, the words or the tapes or whatever it is that's running through our brains that might not be helpful in creating healthy relationships or fulfilling the purpose for which we were designed. And so we can actually be intentional about replacing those defaults with something better.
mm,
So what I realized at the coffee shop when I was seeing the customers as obstacles and the baristas as tools, I realized I was I was thinking and operating out of a constrained and limited mindset that
mm,
said, if I don't get my coffee, then
mm,
I'm going to have some kind of big problem. But I don't, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that's true. That's just what I was operating out of. And so
mm,
I purposed in that moment, in that coffee shop, to change my default. And for me, I come out of a Christian background, and for me, the 23rd Psalm is very rooting for me. And
yes.
so when I feel people are a problem or they're a tool, I'm working to change my default to the Lord is my shepherd, not
Mm,
that person and not
mm,
that problem. The
mm,
Lord is my shepherd. I
yes.
don't lack anything. And then
Yes.
just go through all the verses and reconnect with what's really true, not with this temporary thing
Mm,
this temporary wrong thinking that's preventing me from having a positive relationship with myself, with my work, with other people. So
yes.
that's my long version. Here's the short version. Pay attention to what you're thinking about and change the default setting to something
Mm.
positive.
Wow, this is powerful. Those of you who are listening and watching, I want to invite you in the comment section or contact us when this is over and talk to us. Share with John and I what default settings can you focus on this week? And we're talking about changing your mindset, changing those default settings. We want to hear from you, and I promise, as you send it into us, I will share it on a future episode as we go forward. So, John, this has been so rich. I truly have enjoyed this conversation. And if you would be willing to come back, we definitely need you to come back to a best in class series again, because there's so much more that we really could unpack here. This was just not enough time. As we have listeners that would like to engage with you, I'm going to ask you, can you share with us the resources that you have and share with us how can someone stay in contact with
Sure thing. So the best place to go is the website that my wife and I run called abundantthoughtrevolution.com. So we just want everybody to have an abundant life, and that starts with our thinking. So abundantthoughtrevolution.com. I've got a book coming out at the end of this year, 2025, called Thinking for Success, and it's 52 stories that upgrade our thinking to boost productivity, problem solving, and relationships. And it's really designed to be used by leaders or anybody who's got a team. Short stories that can change our thinking about a particular topic. So it's an alternative method of teaching rather than simply telling people what to do. We tell a story and then we talk about it together. And so it's 52 stories. It's one a week for a year. And it's really a tool designed to help you and your team become more and more effective and successful.
That is fantastic.
No, I'll give you a free chapter and a video about how to use the book at that abundantthoughtrevolution.com.
That is fantastic. So to our Best in Class series listeners and our Transformation Station listeners, we want to support John. So you will find the link in the description for this podcast episode, as well as you saw it on the screen. I invite you to go check out the resources. 2026 is right around the corner. We need to buy the book and support it. Absolutely 1000%. And please reach out to John. Let him know what you found to be relevant during this podcast episode, and also whatever questions you may have, because he right there is an expert. We have heard from one of the best tonight, and we definitely want to support. So John, again, thank you so much for joining us. It was an honor to have you, and we look forward to continuing to engage with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there you have it. That was an amazing Best in the Class series. Talked about better with strong home life relationships with John Knowlton. I want you to remember that relationships are the foundation of everything we do, and they're too important to leave on autopilot. So here's your final call to action. Choose one practice from today's episode and apply it this week in a relationship that matters. Don't forget to share what shifted. DM me, tag me, send it to Transformation Station, or even better, send this episode to another leader that you know who is committed to showing up better and stronger. Because in leadership and in life, resilience is relationship, and greatness is never built alone. So until next time, stay grounded, stay bold, and keep on transforming how you lead and how you live.